The Percy Jackson series on Disney Plus's second season is coming out really soon. It's been insane news to so many fans right now because the show's first season was released around December 19, 2023, which is 2 years ago already. Season 2 took a whole year of production and work before we finally arrived at where we are today. And I gotta say, based on everything we see right now, the wait was completely worth it. So just a few days before the first 2-episode premiere, I thought of analyzing all the teasers and talking about some behind the scenes interviews we have on Season 2. So without further ado, let's get started. First, I want to talk about the biggest news that we just got a few weeks ago, and that is the Season 2 trailer. I watched it, and I'm not joking when I say that my jaw hit the floor. It's an incredible trailer, and since we're going through the teasers we had this season, I'll be talking about it in this part before going to more recent interviews or sneak peeks online. So, okay, the trailer. It starts with this shot of Walker Scobell, or Percy's actor. In season 1 of the show, Walker was 13 years old, but again, that was years ago. Our Percy is now 16 years old, and as Rick and the gang have joked before, he had a pretty big growth spurt between the 2 seasons, which is why Walker's deeper voice kind of made me blink for a bit. But going back, Percy is seen in the big house of camp, and he has a voiceover that says,
"You guys get nightmares, right? I usually get ones that tell me the future."
Before getting a quick shot of Grover and a couple of other people running out of a forest to meet a monster. And let's try to break down what's happening here. First, Percy being in the big house and talking about dreams is noteworthy, because Percy's dreams are a huge part of the Sea of Monsters, or the book Season 2 was adopting. But let's also get more context first, especially on Grover Underwood, or Percy's best friend. In both the first book and season of PJO, Grover tells Percy and Annabeth that he's going on a journey to look for Pan after he got a searcher's license. In between the seasons, Grover went on this journey in the seas, but he gets lost and captured by the Cyclops Polyphemus. In order to alert camp about his kidnapping, Grover forms an empathy link with Percy, which allows Grover to communicate to Percy through dreams. And that's why Percy's asking if the others get dreams in this first shot. He's asking because he's been getting nightmares and messages from Grover, and that would explain why we see Grover in the next shot. What's interesting is that we see Grover get taken by this tentacle monster, and it's actually the Greek mythology sea monster Scylla. Scylla actually appears in the Sea of Monsters, but she didn't do anything about Grover's kidnapping. In the book, Grover's kidnapper was just the Cyclops Polyphemus, so I'm curious about why they changed this up a bit. Moving forward from this are incredible shots. We see Percy in his school uniform, and it's not the same uniform he had from Yancey Academy in the first season. This is because Percy got expelled from Yancey Academy in the previous season, and the Sea of Monsters actually starts with Percy going to a new school for 7th grade. This new school is Merryweather College Prep, which explains the M seen here on Percy's uniform. In this scene, Percy is being attacked by a Laestrygonian giant, which is a monster that we got a sneak peek of in the other teaser. Though this time, this giant is not throwing fireballs. Instead, it's about to kill Percy with a club, which is another change I found interesting. Also, in the book, these giants were not even in this outdoor area. The fight Percy had with the Laestrygonian giants happened in Merryweather Prep, which I also explained in my previous video. But anyway, it also mirrors an incredible shot of Luke about to strike Percy down, which leads to Percy falling off of bed. Not gonna lie, that's some amazing editing. Moving forward from all of these, we see a quick shot of the Grey Sisters taxi, and the crazy swerve it does on the road is so accurate, because that taxi was known to feel so fast and intense when Percy and the gang rode it in the book. Annabeth comes out of the taxi, and her exchange with Percy is pretty interesting. Annabeth asked Percy if he had the dream, and Percy asked if it was about Grover, because again, Percy's been getting nightmares about Grover, but he's the only one getting this because Grover made the empathy link with him and not Annabeth. And this would also explain why Annabeth doesn't know what he's talking about. Instead, she talks about the problem in Camp Half-Blood, which is another major part of the book. And I had to give context yet again. After the demigod Luke Castellan revealed that he betrayed Camp Half-Blood and joined Kronos in the previous book and season, he went to Thalia Grace's tree and poisoned it. Thalia's tree, as established in the books and the show, ensured a protective barrier around Camp Half-Blood so that no monsters could enter. But ever since it got poisoned, the barrier started to weaken, and the demigods were suffering from monster attack after monster attack. Which also explains why, in this shot of camp, the place looks completely wrecked. We already saw the shot from the previous teaser, but we also got a new clip of these monster birds. Okay, sorry, that's like the only way I can describe them. But seriously, these birds are Stymphalian birds, or pigeon-like monsters who attack the camp during a chariot race, which is exactly what this scene is. This place looks like an amphitheater for the race, and the birds are attacking the campers. After this, we get a voiceover of Mr. D telling us that the danger the camp was under was greater than we imagined, and this because of the recent monster attacks. Next to Mr. D here is a new character named Tantalus. Tantalus, in both Greek mythology and Percy Jackson lore, was a demigod who tricked the gods, and in punishment for what he did, the king of the gods, Zeus, cursed him to a lifetime of not eating or drinking. And the reason Tantalus is here is because Tantalus replaced Chiron as the activities director. This is because Luke framed Chiron up for poisoning Thalia's tree, and Chiron was banished from camp. As Mr. D talks, we see another scene with the Laestrygonian giants, and this time they're throwing fireballs like I mentioned earlier. We then cut to this scene of Annabeth, Percy, and Tyson inside the Grey Sister bus, which is exactly what happened in the book as well. We also saw Tyson in a Cyclops form here. I've seen a lot of people say online that the CGI kind of looks awkward in some shots, but I don't know, I think it's kind of growing on me. Also, just to note, both Percy and Tyson are wearing the same Merryweather Prep uniform, because they were just from that school before the scene happened. We also see the Grey Sisters like the previous teaser, and this scene honestly cracked me up. The Grey Sister over here, played by Kristen Schaal, says that they see all things, which is ironic because the Grey Sisters are known to only share one eye, which is currently with Kristen Schaal here. Tyson actually points this out, which is even more hilarious because he's a Cyclops. He also has only one eye, which Kristen Schaal goes on to point out. And then we cut to a really interesting moment. Annabeth, Percy, and Tyson jump out of the taxi and see Luke stab Thalia's tree. Now, this is very different from the book, because we never actually saw Luke poison the tree. We just heard that he did it. And I don't really know what to feel about this change. I honestly think it's kind of pointless because Luke escapes and there's nothing more. So I don't know why they decided to add this dramatic scene. But I guess we had to wait and see in the future. Also, Luke escapes on a Pegasus, which again was never a detail in the book. But anyway, this is the scene where they realize that Thalia's tree is poisoned and how it affects camp, which is a great way to inform the audience of what's happening. After this, we get some pretty quick clips. We see Luke's army of demigods, and then a picture of Grover, which is honestly really sweet, and we also see the still of Grover tied up because he's kidnapped, and a quick but incredible image of Polyphemus. This is the first moment we ever got for the big villain of this book, and he's holding a staff. I don't think he had it in the book, but it's an interesting item for him because Polyphemus is a blind Cyclops. So I guess they decided to give him the staff to navigate the place better. So after this, we also have Tantalus telling them about a quest that they had to embark on, and in comes Clarisse LaRue. One of the reasons I love to see a monsters book so much is because of how much it explored Clarisse's character, and based on all the promotional material we have of season 2, it's pretty clear that Clarisse has a big role in the show, which I'm so excited to see. I also have to give a massive shout out to the small but incredible powerful Tyson scene that many people might overlook. Tyson is surrounded by fire, and I'm not gonna spoil so much in this video, so I'm just gonna stop right there. This is something that happens in the book, and it's a very powerful scene for Tyson, to the point that I'm kind of bracing myself for how they show it in the series. We also get a quick moment of Clarisse and Annabeth before seeing the map of the Sea of Monsters. One thing to note about here is that we see the tentacle on the map. This tentacle over here on the map is Skyla, or one of the monsters in the sea, and it seems to be the same one that kidnapped Grover in the earlier shot. The trailer is far from over after this. We see Clarisse behind the wheel of the ship Ares gave her, the CSS Birmingham. Ares gave her the ship and a bunch of undead soldiers, because Clarisse had the quest to get the Golden Fleece, or a magical artifact that can heal anything, which is exactly what the camp needs to heal Thalia's tree. Also, we see this pirate right here, which may be Clarisse's crew of undead soldiers, but also Blackbeard, a pirate we actually met in Cersei's Island later on. After this, we get quick looks at Percy, Annabeth, and Clarisse fighting off the monster Skyla. This actually gave me goosebumps because it's exactly how I pictured this scene in the book. From the gush of water and rain, to Clarisse's cannons, and to even that moment where Skyla tries to reach for them, I love everything about this. After this, we got a moment that made this trailer even better. We finally saw Tamara Smart as Thalia Grace, and I had even more goosebumps. I mean, look at this scene. She twirled that spear like a pro, and that shield she's holding is actually the AG shield, or a copy of it at least. This shot right here is exactly Thalia Grace, but I have one question about this. When does this scene even happen? Thalia's one scene in the book was at the last chapter. She wakes up after being a tree for years, and she says, "I'm Thalia, daughter of Zeus." And the book ends after that. Thalia did not have a chance to do this entire scene at all, so I'm really surprised that they're giving her more screen time than she did in the book. But either way, I love Thalia's character, so I'm not gonna say no to her having more screen time than she did in the book. We then see this interesting creature in the next shot, and it actually goes on to attack Annabeth in the next moment. I actually paused over here because I did not know what this creature was, until I did a bit of digging and realized the truth. This creature was actually a siren according to the Disney Plus poster, and that cleared up my confusion. Sirens in both the books and Greek mythology were sea nymphs who lure you to your death by showing your greatest desire. They are described as vulture-like women, and I personally never pictured them looking like this, so I guess that's why I got confused. Other great shots we see is Circe herself, and then this cute shot of a guinea pig. If you've read the book, you probably reacted the same way I did, because I immediately laughed. In the book, Circe turned Percy into a guinea pig, and this must be him. We again see Polyphemus with a staff before this appearance of Ares and Clarisse. I like this latter shot because their dynamic was an important part as well in the book. We learn that Clarisse was actually being pressured by her father, and it makes us connect more with Clarisse in the book. One of the last scenes we get is this close-up on a rock, but it's not just any rock. It's the Titan Lord Kronos, or at least what was left of Kronos after Zeus chopped him up. Kronos orders to kill the son of Poseidon, and his voice just gave me chills. After some fast-paced scenes we got from the old teaser, we also got pretty accurate shots of the chariot races in camp, which, as I mentioned in my other Season 2 videos, were very big parts of the book as well. We then get intense scenes of Luke and Percy's final fight like in the book, and like the book as well, it's brutal. And it makes sense. At this point, Luke is one of the best swordsmen ever, and around this time, Percy was rusty in sword fighting. After we get this dramatic shot of Percy falling down after the fight, I got jump scared by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like, I didn't expect him to be in the trailer, but then again, it does make sense because Hermes was in the Sea of Monsters. Actually, in the books, this is supposed to be his first appearance in the series, but the show changed that up and added the Hermes moments in episode 6. But anyway, Hermes tells us to not give up on family, which pretty much explains his purpose in this season. Hermes tries to get Percy to convince Luke to go back to the good side, but it obviously doesn't work. I also love how as Hermes says family, we get this sweet moment of Percy and Sally hugging. I don't say this enough, but I love Percy and Sally's relationship. I think we can all agree that Sally was truly Percy's godly parent over Poseidon any day. But speaking of Poseidon, we also got a moment with Toby Stephens, which isn't really in the book. Poseidon tells Percy to not underestimate himself, and then the trailer ends with another scene on the CSS Birmingham. Percy wanders around as Skyla attacks them, and it's again exactly how I imagined it in the book. Percy stands up in the midst of the chaos, and Annabeth screams his name in the wind before the title card shows up. Like, wow. That was incredible. This was the best trailer that they've given us, and Disney Plus did not stop there. They even gave us a list of episode titles on Instagram, and I'll be going through it here. Like the first season, Season 2 will follow an 8-episode format, and looking at the list right now, it's obvious that they're chapter titles of the Sea of Monsters book, and let's go through them to see what we can expect in each episode. The first episode's title is I Played Dodgeball with Cannibals, and this is actually the second chapter of the Sea of Monsters book. Here, we see Percy start 7th grade and Merryweather Prep, and he's classmates with Tyson. They enter a gym class together and end up playing dodgeball with Laestrygonian giants, who are the quote-unquote cannibals in the title. The episode could continue to Percy, Tyson, and Annabeth fighting off the giants before they ride the Grey Sisters taxi going to Camp Haplid. This when we also realize that Tyson is actually a Cyclops, and Annabeth becomes wary and cold with him because of her experiences with Cyclopses in the past, which will definitely be explained further in the future. Upon arriving in the camp, they realize that the place was under attack by Colchos bulls, and this was again because of the barrier weakening. A fight happens, and it ends with Tyson and Clarisse defeating the bulls. The episode can continue with the following scenes: meeting Tantalus, or the guy who replaced Chiron, getting to know the chariot races, and maybe even the fight between Percy and Annabeth. Percy and Annabeth wanted to work on the chariot race together, but they ended up in a heated argument about Tyson. As mentioned earlier, Annabeth hates Cyclopses because of something that happened in her past, but Percy doesn't know this and thinks she was just being mean for no reason. Because of this, they split up and do the chariot race by themselves. Once they're at this part, they could proceed to episode 2, Demon Pigeons Attack. This episode title is from chapter 6 of the book, and these demon pigeons are the Stymphalian birds that I mentioned earlier. These birds attack during the chariot race, and to defend the camp, both Percy and Annabeth made up to defeat the monsters. They soon realized the real situation in camp. They needed to find the Golden Fleece to heal Thalia's tree and save Grover, and Tantalus assigned Clarisse to the job. Percy and Annabeth tried to fight against this and join the quest, but it was no use. Clarisse had the quest, and feeling bummed out, Percy walks around the beach to meet Hermes. This is probably when we get that scene earlier of Hermes telling Percy to not give up on family, because in the book, this is exactly what Hermes did. The episode can end here. To move on to the next episode, we board the Princess Andromeda, which is chapter 8. The Princess Andromeda is Luke's ship, and immediately after Hermes had this conversation with Percy in the book, Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson board the ship. They have a run-in with Luke, but eventually escape and head over to Clarisse's ship. The episode can end here before we go to a pretty big moment in the book through episode 4, Clarisse blows up everything. Interestingly, in a recent event, Walker mentioned that this was his most favorite episode because of how intense the scenes were, and he has a point. Clarisse blows up everything is chapter 11 in the book, and in this part, Clarisse's ship arrives in the Sea of Monsters. They encounter both Scylla and Carbides, and I'm not gonna fully spoil everything, but the place explodes and Percy loses consciousness. The episode can end here, but it can also continue to Percy waking up with Annabeth on a raft, and their raft leads them to Cece's Spa and Resort, which is the title of episode 5. Cece's Spa and Resort is the chapter immediately after Clarisse blows everything up, and here, Percy and Annabeth meet Cece, and Percy gets turned into a guinea pig. Annabeth eventually saves him, and they both escape. As they escape, they encounter the Sirens. I'm not going to explicitly say again what happens here, because it's a really big Percabet moment that I don't want to spoil, so I'm just going to leave it by saying that Percy saves Annabeth, and they soon end up in Polyphemus' lair. The episode can end here, and move on to the next one entitled Nobody Gets the Fleece. In this episode, we might see the fight against Polyphemus, and it ends with them getting the fleece and saving Grover. They ride a hippocampi and arrive at the beach. Now with the fleece, Percy realizes that Clarisse was doing this quest to make her father proud, and if he went to camp with the fleece, he'll be hailed a hero, even if this was technically Clarisse's quest. Because of this, Percy gives Clarisse the golden fleece so that she can get the glory, and it's a really big moment in the book. After a full year of hating each other, this moment eased their rivalry, and I really want to see this in the show. Clarisse leaves with the fleece, but Luke and his army of demigods arrive and kidnap Percy, Annabeth, Grover, and Tyson to the Princess Andromeda. The episode can end here, and proceed with episode 7, I Go Down with the Ship. Just a note, the ship is the Princess Andromeda, and this is when Percy and Luke have a pretty epic sword fight. A battle happens, and all hope seems to be lost until Chiron and the party ponies arrive and save the day. Once more, the episode can end here before the last one. The fleece works its magic too well. This holds the cliffhanger ending of the entire show, and it's Thalia waking up after being a tree for years. Though, according to the trailer, she seems to have more scenes, so I wonder what Rick and the gang are planning for her. So, at this point, I'll be going through more recent news from Disney+. Just recently, they gave us a special look into Season 2 through a scene with Tyson, Percy, and Annabeth, and let's go through it. This special look starts in a street where Percy and Tyson are walking, but they suddenly stop because they saw the Grey Sisters taxi. One thing I want to point out in this moment is that I love how Tyson just picks up Percy immediately when he senses danger. It's a really sweet and protective moment for Tyson, and it really shows how much Tyson values Percy. Percy also loves Tyson like a brother, especially around this part of the book, because Tyson was the only friend he had in Merryweather Prep. Also, Percy normally defended Tyson from bullies, and Tyson must have wanted to return the favor by protecting Percy at this moment. Annabeth jumps out of the car and threatens Tyson immediately to put Percy down, which is so accurate to how Annabeth would have treated Tyson around this time. She immediately mistrusts him, even if Tyson was trying to protect Percy. I also love the dialogue they have over here. Percy recognizes Annabeth and is surprised she's here. When Tyson realizes it's Annabeth, he remarks,
"You're Annabeth. Percy talks about you all the time."
Which is really sweet because the Sea of Monsters does build more of Percy and Annabeth's relationship. I also love how Percy tries to stop Tyson from saying more, but Tyson went on to mention how Percy looks at Annabeth's picture all the time.
Hi.
Tyson?
Nice. You look at a picture all the time, right?
And that's a detail straight from the book. Over the summer, Percy received a picture of Annabeth, and he kept that picture in his pocket all the time. This actually hints at Percy's growing feelings for Annabeth, but it's really subtle in this book. Percy must have realized how it sounded to Annabeth because he immediately changes the subject, which is definitely something book Percy would do too. Percy asks Annabeth what happened with her dad in Virginia, and this is because the previous season in book ended with Annabeth going back to her family to give them a second chance. Annabeth brushes this off though, and talks about Camp Haplet instead, and the clip ends there. Even if this is just a small snippet, I immediately loved it, and I definitely want more. Speaking of new Season 2 news, I'll also go through this Teen Vogue article that shared some behind-the-scenes news from the cast. The article starts with talking about how much the cast grew up since Season 1, because, as I mentioned earlier, it's been 2 years since the first season. They also point out how these 2 years made the cast more than ready to adopt more of Rick's books, which gets darker by the season. And this is true. The PJO books do become more and more serious as the series progress, and the Sea of Monsters kind of starts that up. Walker Scobell even points this out, saying, "This is really the angsty season in my opinion. A lot of the challenges Percy faces are about him and his feelings, so I think, if anything, we pulled a little bit from the third book back to the second book, because the third book deals with that a lot." And what he's saying is pretty true. Walker even mentioned beforehand that this season was more personal because it threatened Percy's best friend, aka Grover, and his home, or Camp Haplet. Dior Goodjohn said the same thing when she told Teen Vogue, "Each season the stakes get a little higher, and the color grading gets a little darker, and the storylines become more grounded and gory and intense. I think what is contributing to that scale of the entire show is that as time goes on, and as our characters and our audience grow up, things get more real." Alongside all of this, Teen Vogue also released an exclusive photo of the trio. I'm not really sure when this is gonna happen in the show because Grover was away for the most part, so this might be at the last episode when they're back together. After this, the article shifts to an interview with Daniel Dimer, or Tyson's actor. Daniel explains Tyson's character, saying, "Tyson is an eternal optimist. He's looking to give the world as much of himself as he can, he's looking to love as best as he can, and he's hoping for a family and for that love to be returned." This is extremely accurate to the book because Tyson was abandoned as a baby, and he always struggled to belong somewhere, so finding a family with Percy meant the whole world to him. Daniel also adds a pretty interesting note about what they did to Tyson's character. He told Teen Vogue that they added this protector persona to Tyson, which may be slightly different from the book. I actually noticed this when Tyson picked up Percy immediately when the taxi stopped in that scene I was talking about earlier. Tyson was quick to act when he heard a threat, and I honestly don't think this is different from the book at all. Tyson loves Percy so much, and I honestly think that adding this protector persona is a really good thing for his character. From discussing Tyson's character, the article continues to Percybeth, or the Percy and Annabeth pairing. If you've been online like me ever since the first teaser of Season 2, then you would have seen the huge amounts of Percybeth edits just because of the small moments from the trailers, and it's honestly hilarious. Teen Vogue told Walker and Leah, or the actors who played Percy and Annabeth respectively, that some fans were worried that the show might speed up Percybeth, but Walker and Leah assured us that it will still be a slow burn romance just like in the book, which is a really good thing. I don't ever want to change that. Leah even adds a funny note saying, "The reason why it's such a slow burn is because they probably don't even know how to flirt. And hear me out, Annabeth doesn't know how to, because she's not even in the mortal world." Walker also adds a pretty Percy thing to say. He admits that Percy does not even see the romance itself, and that's why Walker was acting that way as well in the show. Walker even says that he was surprised Percy and Annabeth got together in the end when he first read the books. Like his character Percy, Walker did not see the signs, which is hilariously so on point. Walker even goes on about this, saying that he likes placing hints about the romance here and there in the show, but that he wants to keep it to a minimum. He even recalls helping the writers edit off Percy's lines that he believes Percy would not say in this part of the series, which really shows just how much he cares about his character. Moving on from this, we also get a talk with Charlie Bushnell, or Luke's actor. Charlie talks about how the audience will feel conflicted about Luke when they watch the show, because Luke is a very complicated character. In Charlie's words, Luke truly believes that he is in the right in these situations, and he wants to create this better world for all demigods and monsters and creatures. I think people are going to watch this season and be conflicted about Luke, because he makes a lot of very compelling points. Charlie even tries to sympathize with Luke by saying that Luke's motives really stem from how Hermes treated him as a child. In Charlie's words, I think a parent leaving you like that is enough to make any kid feel like a failure, and he wants to show his father that he's not. After Luke's character, we also get a snippet from Dior Goodjohn, or Clarisse's actress. Dior explains how Clarisse's character learned leadership, what it means to be a friend, and what it means to actually accept help from the people around her, which is pretty accurate to Clarisse in the books as well. Clarisse managed to work together with Percy and the rest in the end, and settle their differences to save the camp. Dior also perfectly sums up what Clarisse is trying to do in the season, by saying, I think the big thing for her is that she's trying to learn how to balance her need for approval and her quest for glory with this newfound sympathy that she has for people. But the second she starts discovering what it means to really care for people and not just care for her father, that's when things get difficult. Aside from all of this, Teen Vogue also had a conversation with Aryan Simhadri, or Grover's actor. Aryan talks about how Grover had to act like a wife and a bride to distract Polyphemus. He even went on about the infamous wedding dress, saying that it was a beautiful wedding dress that got torn up after filming. He even mentions how they made him walk back and forth with it to tear it, and how it even had some blood on it, because Aryan had a lot of nosebleeds on set, something that he also mentioned before in the Entertainment Weekly article as well. The article ends with another talk with Walker Scobell. Walker was asked about Logan Lerman, or the actor who originally played Percy in the Peter Johnson movies. Teen Vogue had asked Walker if there was a chance that Logan might appear in the show sometime in the future, and Walker admitted that he liked the idea. Previously, a lot of fans wanted Logan to play Poseidon or Percy's father, but I was personally not really into this idea. I think Logan looks a bit too young to be Percy's dad, and seeing that Poseidon is now played by Toby Stephens, a lot of fans thought that Logan missed his chance to be part of the show. However, Walker argues that there might be a slight possibility to have Logan in the show. Logan could appear as Triton, or Poseidon's other son.
He has to play our brother, Triton.
That was exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
And I honestly think that's perfect. Walker also recalls being really nervous about meeting Logan for the first time face-to-face in the Disney Plus launch event in Los Angeles, but ended up feeling better with how nice it was to talk to Logan, saying, he's a normal dude. Every time I saw him having a conversation with someone, or when he met Aryan and I, he talked to each of us differently, and he was actually listening and talking to us, and it's just really refreshing to see that. From this, Walker expounds more about Logan, telling Teen Vogue that Logan gave some great advice to him about acting and how to handle fame as a child star, as Logan was also once a child star. Walker admits that Logan helped him develop better responsibility for his actions, especially now that he has big projects and a fan base, and that he was really grateful for Logan. And that's pretty much how the article ends. Percy Jackson Season 2 is going to be incredible. Rick and the gang have done so much over the last year to release it this December 10, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm so ready to finally dive into this new season. So how about you? What do you think about these updates? Let me know in the comments down below.